Welcome out there. My name is Laolu Akonde, and you are on to Inside Sources. Here is my take for the week entitled, What Can Be Done? This title is a new series exploring policy prescriptions and priorities for our governments. In the quest to elevate national discourse and in the pursuit of public interest, we will delve into some hints of broad policy outlines that can transform our existence as a people. And today we want to start with a focus on human capital development. This ought to be one of our topmost absolute priorities. While it is important to build up the country for infrastructural development, human capital development ought to be a higher priority. This is simply because of the unrivaled transformative capacity that education has to impact more of our people and liberate huge populations from ignorance, poverty, and misery. For instance, let's look at the audacious plan of the Tinubu administration in the now much talked about Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road Project. We should give the president the benefit of the doubt in this 15 trillion gargantuan infrastructural project. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt, because we are persuaded that this infrastructural project will be of significant economic benefit. But let us challenge him, the president I'm talking about, to come up with an equally, if not a much more audacious plan for the education and the health of our people. Take education, for instance. In this country today, we have pupils in their millions learning with their bellies on the floor in schools because there are no chairs and desks. We have hundreds of pupils being taught in one class, perhaps with 2 or 3 teachers in total. We have classes where different categories are bunched up without separation into primary 1 or primary 2 or primary 3 or 4 and so on and so forth, due to the insufficiency of space and inadequate number of qualified teachers. Those things are happening for the most part in this country. This is not to talk of pupils who don't even have schools, children that are out of school. We have over 20 million out-of-school children in Nigeria, according to UNESCO. Public education in Nigeria is now entirely on ground zero. So why can't we develop an irreducible plan, an audacious plan that revises this shameful state of our education and deliver the much-needed educational revival? Even in higher institutions, students are cramped both in their classes and in living rooms like sardines in cans, with disease-prone sanitation outlets and living conditions that are not even fit for indentured servants. Yet, we have had it so well done in this country before in the area of education, and it served us very well. Today, as the world is progressing faster in the knowledge economy, proper education as a factor of development is even more urgent than before. If we don't make education our absolute #1 development priority, we are already defining the kind of future our children and their children will inherit. Yes, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project will open up the country and facilitate significant economic growth. But we also need an audacious plan for healthcare. In this country today, pregnant women and accident victims, they are still being wheeled on wooden barrows in many cases to the hospitals or healthcare centers. In most cases, those centers and hospitals have nothing. They are bare. Access and affordability to decent healthcare is still far too fetch in our country. So why not have an 8-year program, just like the Coastal Project, that delivers healthcare to our people so that the poor can get it? Why not an audacious free healthcare to people who can afford it? Why not a system of effective ambulance and emergency response? Why not have well-resourced, top-notch hospitals where those who can pay can go to? These things are possible. Let us quell all this embarrassing medical tourism abroad, in which a lot of our elites have become famous patients around the world, going to places like India and Turkey and France and UK and Germany. We can all that by having an audacious healthcare program in this country. So when we consider the almost unbearable level of multidimensional poverty in Nigeria, we have no excuse not to make human capital development our number one development priority, even as we fight the worrying menace of insecurity in the land. So, as the Tinubu administration goes ahead with the Lagos-Calabar project, let it also be that we will have a big vision cast for human capital development in this country. Let the Tinubu administration influence state governments to buy into such a big vision. Let's have a near-term, mid-term, and long-term audacious plan to banish poverty from the country, to banish want from the land, to banish mystery from our country, to banish ignorance from the land, to banish disease from the country. If we have the audacity to have this 15 trillion naira coastal project, we can do anything that we care to do. And there you have my take for the week. Inside Sources will be right back. And today we're having a focus on the idea to change the governance system from presidential to parliamentary system. But first, before that, we continue our conversation on the future of Nigeria with the former Deputy Governor of Anambra State. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. As we continue our conversation today on the future of Nigeria, I have a very eminent guest today. He is the former Deputy Governor of Anambra State. As a matter of fact, for the last 8 years, just before the current administration, is Dr. Ukem Okeke. You're welcome, Sir Excellency, to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And it's good to also know that currently Dr. Okeke is the Vice Chairman of the APC Professional Forum.
Correct.
And also a monetary economist. All right. So I hope that we get to monetary policy.
Yes.
But just to open the discussion, Excellency, if you look at where the country is today, would you say that our trajectory is on course to a greater Nigeria that many of us believe is our potential?
Yes, I believe so. I truly believe in my heart that we are in the right, direction. Nigeria had actually been through a whole lot. We've been in a situation where things haven't been going very well. But I see a difference in direction. I see a difference in the leadership. For me, leadership is not about being a brain surgeon. It's simply about sincerity of purpose. Are you sincere in your heart that you want to make a difference? You want to make the lives of people better? Legacy is on human beings. It's not on the structures. It's on human beings. And I see this administration and the Asiwaju-led administration in focused to do what is right. Of course, you have to make some hard decisions,
right,
which I believe is done so far. The removal of fuel subsidy is a major decision that took quite a lot for him to have done. Of course, the trying to merge the exchange rate, the official and the parallel rate,
right,
that's also a major decision. And I think these are things that we need to do in this period and then try and manage the outcome, the consequences of such decisions, because it's been very difficult for the masses. It's a situation that people did not find themselves in a couple of months back. Now they have to face it. They have to face the reality that fuel price has gone up. The Naira has devalued to try to find its proper level. But I believe it's something we need to do. And the question is, can we sustain it? We must sustain that direction and continue focused and continue in that direction. Of course, some of the things the president has done in the fiscal space, like the reforms, the tax reforms, are also fantastic. These are things we need to do. Try and create a situation where we can increase our revenue.
Right.
We need to look into the oil sector, make sure we plug all the leakages, stop all the sealing that goes on in that area. So there is progress. There is progress in the right direction. We just have to be sustained.
Yeah, I like your positive outlook. The next question I wanted to ask you is, so since it's your view that we are in the right direction, how do you think, we can mitigate the problem of poverty in Nigeria? That's one. And then, of course, as you try to, undo that, then the current hardship. Many people believe that, yes, I think we all agree that it's important to remove the subsidy. But the way that it was done, many have said that there were no sufficient preparation. And if you look at it, quite frankly, the social investment program, which has been on since 2016, is not even currently in play because of some of the problems that were encountered, in the management of that ministry and that program. So you have a situation where you have the removal of the subsidy, which has, caused a lot of inflation and a lot of hardship. And yet, the social investment program that is some kind of a buffer is not in place, Excellency. There are certain decisions when you take, the result is, in the short run, it's going to be difficult. People are going to go through really a serious, very difficult period. But with time, things will definitely get better. Take, for instance, I listened to Dangote saying that he's reduced the price of diesel. Yeah. Now, you know that the masses move with vehicles that run on diesel. Goods produced in the farms are moved with vehicles that run on diesel. Right. Of course, that's going to help in reducing the price of transportation. If that happens, hopefully. Oftentimes, what goes up in Nigeria? No, it has to come down. I think it's just a process. I think we're all in a hurry to see the change taking place. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a light bulb switch. You switch it on and you switch it back up. No, it's going to be a process that will take place. Now, you mentioned the issue of a social investment program. It was in place, but I think as soon as the administration started and noticed the problem with that ministry, he had to say, put a check. Wait a minute, let's stop. Right. Because the point was that were those palliatives getting to the right people? Were those conditional payments or whatever they were doing getting to the right people? I believe it wasn't. Maybe some of them were stolen or maybe given to people who did not deserve it. It's better that you stop a process than continue on the wrong path. Stop, reassess, make some changes, and then continue. Of course, people will be suffering when this is happening. Yeah. I think people tend to focus more on the federal government instead of looking at the subnationals. The people who are on ground are the states, the state governments. The question you ought to ask is, what are they doing to mitigate the hunger of their people? True. Some use the issue of providing goods, food, for instance, as palliative. I personally don't believe in that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but to me, don't spend the extra money of buying goods, the logistics you spend on it for the transport to bring it, pack it, and then assemble people to come and collect. When I was deputy governor, we tried to help people who were, people in their 70s and 75 years of age. What we did was senior citizens. We set up a committee. We went down to the different local governments, to the different towns. And then you come out in a town hall and you assemble people. Everybody, the PG of that community knows who the people that are old. Right. It brings them out. We take their biometrics. Now, there are people who are old enough that can't have a bank account. They will now say, yes, this is my grandson, my granddaughter, or whatever. Take their biometrics. They're the ones that will go to the bank to pick up the funds for me. And we did that. We were able to send money to every senior citizen in the society. Of course, you can do periodic checks to make sure people who have died, and then the people that are coming into the bracket. For me, give them the money. Let them go and source whatever they need. Because if you give somebody a bag of rice, maybe that's not what he wants. Maybe he wants half a bag of rice and use the rest of the money to buy tomatoes or whatever, condiments to be able to make the rice. So we must be
try and be proactive in what we're trying to do. And then try and teach them how to fish. Create opportunities for their children to be able to get jobs and feed the family. One thing I can say about our society is the family structure is way different from what you find in developed societies. People that make money in a family take care of the rest of them. So if you provide jobs for the youth, they in turn will take care of their family, take care of their parents, their grandparents, and make life a little bit easier. The question we need to be asking is, what are the governors doing? Are they being proactive? For instance, I saw what the Niger state governor did about buying tractors. He bought a whole bunch of tractors. That to me is thinking in the right direction, because he must think agriculture is where he has comparative advantage.
Right.
So let him spend money in that area. Of course, maybe in the short run, what he would do is give out those tractors for free. Send them out to the field, develop the land, make the land ready for cultivation, and then send the people out there to go and cultivate. That is what everybody needs, because you're providing the food that you might even have excess that you can now send to other states, to sell. These are things the governors ought to be doing. Everybody is expecting the federal government to do this, to do that. No. It's not the federal government. The state governors need to be more proactive in different forms. If you go to Anambra, I know the governor had given laptops to teachers. Of course, a teacher with a laptop can now be able to do better in teaching, to be able to provide impact knowledge to the students, who in turn graduate and are better equipped to compete in this global world. So we just have to be more proactive, be sincere in ourselves that we want to help. It's not just buying food, because you can't sustain it. Lagos State tried something I thought was interesting about maybe bringing the food to places and selling it at a subsidized rate. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea, because if you can sustain that, bring the food to a marketplace, sell, and make sure the right people come to buy, and not people that can buy in bulk and then store or go and resell. No, you're told to buy a certain amount of quantity. Do you get? So that you're able to touch different lives.
So you think that instead of the palliative that is largely, just sharing food stuff and other stuff, that it's better to actually do the cash transfer.
Do the cash transfer.
Which is the urgency, Excellency. I'm sorry to just wanted us to really tie it in. That's the urgency of, the suspension of the social investment program. Because that's there's a conditional cash transfer.
Absolutely. Yes. Of course, like I said, if it wasn't getting to the right people, why continue?
That's another problem.
That becomes a problem. So the question you ought to ask is, okay, are they trying to solve the problem? Is the federal government looking on ways to plug all the loopholes, make sure things are done in the right way, so that the money will get to the right people that deserve it? Then just sustain it. Sustain it in the short run. Now, I'm believing that if we begin to increase our production, and which it's not going to be in the short run, maybe in the medium to long term, things will begin to change. Insecurity gets to reduce. Farmers get back to their farm and be able to produce, and goods will begin to come. Then things will begin to progress. We'll start moving in the right direction. The question is, are we focused? Are we all sincere in that process? Everybody's expecting the president to do this, to do that. No, he can't be everywhere. He can't be in all the ministries. It's the people who are, or agencies, the people who are manning those places, are they sincere? Are they really putting their effort to make things better for the Nigerian citizens?
Thank you, Excellency. That's why, we always had a discussion about the direction, because, there are quite a lot of very critical things, going on. And when we look at it, it doesn't suggest that we are certainly moving in the right direction. We do know what that right direction is, and there is a lot of expectation, even regarding the current president, that he comes with quite a bit of experience and what he has done in Lagos, what he represents. But I wanted to ask you: do you think that as a people, in this country, do you think that in terms of our differences, ethnic differences, geopolitical differences, regional differences, religious differences. Do you think there's a vision of greatness that all of us are pursuing? Do you really think so?
I really don't. I don't think Nigeria is a nation per se that the way it ought to be. I hear people clamoring for restructuring. I hear that a lot. And I'm asking, when we restructure, isn't it the same Nigerians that will be running a restructured society? Why can't the states, are they restructured? If you come to, let me give an example. If you come to Anambra now, it's very difficult for an Anglican to become a governor of the state. It's mostly Catholics.
So since 1999, has it always been Catholic?
Only once I remember that it was an Anglican.
And who was that?
I think that was, I'm not sure, I think it was Mbad Muju.
Okay. It was the second or the...
Yes, the first, I think it was the first.
The first actually, yeah.
Yes. No, 1999 was Ezife. Or was it? No, prior to that. Ezife was prior. Yes, it was Mbad Muju. It was 1999. But most of the other governors, Peter Obi, Willie Obiano, Ngige, Chris Ngige, have all been Catholics.
Is Soludo also Catholic?
Yes, Soludo is Catholic. So you find that is a problem. Even within the states, there's marginalization going on. So when you look
at non-Catholics are marginalized.
Are marginalized. That's the argument.
Are you Catholic?
No, I'm Anglican, and that's what made me become a deputy governor, because you can't have a Catholic, Catholic
ticket.
Yes, you have a Catholic and an Anglican. So I got the chance of being a deputy governor because I was an Anglican. But me just getting up and said I wanted to run and become governor of a state, it's going to be difficult. It's not easy. It takes. I don't know. And of course, I never aspired to be a governor, so I've never really thought much about it to sit down and think about, running for governorship. But the point I'm trying to make is things are not the way it ought to be. There's this clamor of, when is it my turn? When is my turn to be in power so that I can do whatever I want to do in that space? But it shouldn't be that way. Whoever is the leader should not matter. What we are looking for is competence. Looking for people that are sincere, that will come out and do what is right, and make my life or life of the citizens better. That's the way it ought to be. But people are more interested in when is our turn. When is our turn? People say, okay, the north senatorial zone have ruled is next the south, then you will go to the central. No, it really shouldn't be. But that's the nature of the society we're in. We clamor for the North to be president, the South has to be president. These are things that should not matter, but this is the society we're in. How does that change? I don't know. I really don't know. Time will tell. But I also believe that we're all human beings. We all know what is right. If a man gets into power and does what is right, everybody would know this is the right thing to have been done, and he's doing it. And that begins to change the people's mindset, not looking for my own turn. Because what happens is that people think that once a man from the North goes in, the North will benefit.
Right.
If the South will lose, the Central will lose. But if the person in the Central goes in, the Central gains, the rest of the zones lose. No, that's not the way it ought to be, but that's what we find ourselves in.
And it's interesting that you've painted a picture of what happens in Anambra, to make the argument that restructuring is not a silver bullet.
Yes.
Because even in a place like Anambra, right, all of us we're all Igbos there, but we still have this issue of religious dichotomy.
Exactly.
So not
ethnicity.
Yeah. So, and I want us to talk a little bit more about that, because it goes to the depth of the issues that we have to contend with. Because, of course, there's a groundswell, of opinion around restructuring. So people say that, look, we want a situation where the subnationals, at times call them federating units. Some people say that the states are not federating units, but that people should be able to control their own
resources,
their own affairs, you know. But the dimension, the insight that you have given us now shows that even when you have that, there are still going to be there are still going to be issues. Of division. There will be, you know, some kind of division. So the question is, who do we hold responsible for? Because we must think through how we can go beyond that. Because Nigeria is not only we're not the first country that we have to deal with this problem, the multiplicity of our culture, of our ethnicity, the differences in our religion and region, you know. But people tend to solve this problem. And I wanted to ask you, is it not more of a question, two questions that I want to bring in now. First of all, is it not a decision of the elite to say that, look, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from, these are the minimum benchmark that we must live by as a society? That's one. And then secondly, is it not also a question of ensuring that there are structures, and when we break the structure or we violate the rules, there is consequence? What do you think about those two things in trying to actually re-engineer our society?
Thank you. The first part of your question was the elite.
Yes.
I'm not sure the elite, they're ready to change the society. Let me give an example of what I'm saying. When I was deputy governor, I traveled to Lagos and I met with the traders from Anambra.
Okay, who live in Lagos.
Yes. The who is who. I mean, these are the big boys. These people that bring in about 100 to 200 containers every month. And I said to them that you guys are here very interested in your containers coming in. And that's your focus. My container has to come in. But you fail to realize that with one stroke of a pen, a 50 naira pen, ballpoint pen, your container becomes a contraband. That if you're not politically aware, you may lose out. That you all should begin to think politics in addition to your trading.
Right.
And I said to them that 10 of you big boys can actually sit down and say, let's decide who becomes the governor of our state. And I said, this is how you do it. Put resources together. Contribute, I don't know how, however money you think you can all pitch in and put together. And then look at all the people that are coming out to run for governorship and invite them and ask questions, ask critical questions. Who are you?
Yeah.
Where are you coming from? What do you do as a living? How do you think you can make a difference to the Anambra people? And then after you've interviewed all, how many, whatever they are, pick one. Pick the one that you think has the capacity to deliver. Now, don't pick that person because he's your brother, he's your sister, he's from your town, he's not from your town. Don't pick him because you expect him to come up with projects for you when he becomes the governor. Pick him that you're sincere, that you want the state to be better. Because the state being better is good for you, because it's good for your children, your grandchildren, or whatever.
Exactly.
And then make sure he wins. And then see his 4 years in office. If he performs, make sure he gets a second term. If he doesn't, look at the new crop of people who want to be governors and focus on them. Don't look at the party. Just focus on bringing the right person in office. And I said to them, do that maybe 2, 3, 4 cycles. You begin to get the right people to aspire to be governors, because they're now no longer worried. For someone like me now, one of the reasons why I don't want to run is I don't have the money to run. And I don't intend to borrow money from somebody and expect that person to be at the back of my neck, expecting me to do this or do that for him. So once that person comes in with the qualities and delivers for the first 4 years, then give him a second term. If he's not, look at the other people that are coming in and make sure that somebody takes over from him. Because what you're looking for is a better society. that you have money, that you're rich, you're wealthy, you live in Lagos, you have a big house in the village, the road to your house is not tarred. You're afraid when you come home that you put on your generator because you're afraid of, people, your villagers telling the armed robbers to come and get you. What life is that? It's not life. So what you're trying to do is create a better society. And if that happens, the state that you come from begins to progress.
Yes.
Value of property begins to what?
Rise.
To rise. You find yourself spending more time in your town.
So that's what did they say to you? I'm sorry.
They listen.
I'm interested in that.
They entered in one ear and popped out the other one because the commitment is not there. What some of them are more interested in is, yes, I know who the governor is. And when I'm having a function, he blows his siren and comes to my house to visit. And that's all. But I think people need to sit down and tell themselves the truth, because the society we want is something that will be good for us, good for our children, and good for our great-grandchildren. But whether the elites are ready for that, I don't think so. Because you see the way things go, the way things happen, and you ask yourself the question. I mean, I was a deputy governor for 8 years, and I keep on asking myself, where are we going? And, I want to say this, it's interesting because I think people spend time blaming politicians.
Right.
But a politician cannot steal without the cooperation of a civil servant.
True.
He can't. He needs the cooperation of a civil servant. I'll give you an example. I got an approval from the governor to fix some of our vehicles that were broken down. Of course, I gave the approval. They had to buy an engine to fix one of the trucks. 2 weeks after this happened, I sent him an error and they said, "Oh, guy, the truck is broken down." I'm saying, why?
I just fixed it.
I just fixed it. Now, I'm the deputy governor. Do you expect me to go to town, go to the mechanic, and make sure he buys the right part to put in the vehicle? No, I can't do that. But somebody who is in authority, somebody that was given charge to go and do that, did something that was not right. That's why the vehicle
is broken down.
It's broken down. You give them money to go and buy an AC, that Samsung AC, for instance. They won't buy Samsung AC. They'll buy another name in the market that's cheaper. So you find things happening that you just shake your head. But you can't be everywhere.
That comes to the second part of the question about no consequence for misbehavior and malfeasance.
I've always said this, and I've said it more often than I can even remember. What we lack in this country is accountability. Every man in authority or woman in authority must be held accountable for your actions or inaction. People get away with murder here. People do things that are just mind-boggling. And I ask myself, why? Americans are not better citizens than we are. They're not better human beings.
True.
The reason why they don't get into all kinds of malfeasance is because there are checks and balances there. A typical Nigerian that you see in Murtala Airport trying to travel out of the country is struggling, acting like a fool. But as soon as he lands in UK or in the US, he behaves himself. Why? Because he knows the consequences of misbehavior. But that's not here. People here will steal, not because they need the money or their children need the money, but because of the money he will get to share to police, anybody that's trying to prosecute him, to get away from being held accountable. That needs to change. Now, how do we do that? I don't know. I keep on praying this administration. I know there are judicial reforms in place that the administration is working on. I'm praying that they'll be consistent. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a while.
Right.
Nobody wants to change. People don't like change. People don't like, we have a proverb in Igbo that says, you don't take away somebody's feeding on a breast milk. You don't remove his mouth from that breast. But sometimes we need to. We need to do that because we can't allow things to continue the way they are going. How to stop it? I don't have the answer. But I believe if a person at the top, wherever at the top is, you're the president, you're the governor, you're a minister, you're a DG, you're a principal, whatever you are, if you behave, anybody below you will see you and behave. I used to say to my staff, watch me. If I misbehave, go ahead and misbehave. If I act inappropriately, go ahead and act inappropriately. Because I'm the leader. I'm the one that's supposed to show example. I don't talk it. I walk. You must walk it.
Right.
You must walk it. That's the only way people will follow you. And if everybody tries to, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. If we all try and do what is right, we'll have a better society.
The more we talk about these issues in an elevated sense, we'll be able to mobilize more of our people to understand that you can't leave politics to politicians, and that we need to build an elite consensus.
Yes, definitely need to.
And then there has to be consequence.
We must be held accountable for our actions.
Very, very, very important. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we want to have a major discussion on the idea of having a return to parliamentary system of government in Nigeria. You will recollect that between just before independence up until 1966, Nigeria practiced a parliamentary system of government. Now all of that changed after the military coup of 1966 and the return to democracy in 1979. But there is now a concerted effort in the House of Representatives to return Nigeria to a parliamentary system of government in the view that we might be able to get better democracy dividend under a parliamentary system. And I believe that myself. And so today, we have one of the leading voices and a major stalwart of that attempt in the House of Representatives speaking to us today in Inside Sources. I'd like to welcome my good friend and brother, Representative Abdulsamad Dasuki, to Inside Sources.
Thank you, Mr. Lawulu, and good to see you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. Why do you want to make this major move? What's the driving force and spirit behind this idea?
Well, it's not something that we have to start digging. Things are not working in Nigeria. We can't deny that fact, and this is not something that started with this 10th Assembly. Some of us that were in the 8th Assembly, we believe that there were things that were fundamentally wrong with the system. And we believe that, look, if we continue to practice what we believe is fundamentally faulty, then we're likely to be where we are. Between 2015, when we started it till now, we have seen the differences. We don't need to go far. Every now and then, when you have an election, you are always the last one better than this. So that means there's something that we need to sit together and agree that, look, we need a way forward. And based on that, a good number of us, again, came back in the 10th Assembly and realized that way forward for us, the system is contributing. Some will say the Nigerian factor, the Nigerian people, but we believe the system itself, is a system that gives you so much power.
Right.
And absolutely, what power does.
Right.
It corrupts absolutely. And this is where we are. And our founding fathers did a very good job. Some of us believe that our founding fathers had the foresight to believe that Nigeria is a plural state. Everything in plural. So the best thing, let's find an avenue where we can have, even if it's the elites, the elected representatives coming together to determine what is best for the people, then go and implement it. And that's why they took us to where they took us to, which is the parliamentary system, even if we know that our colonial masters, we are practicing the parliamentary system. But if you look at what happened, what worked for us in between the years that we practiced parliamentary, most of the foundation that was laid for development in Nigeria happened around that time.
True. I mean, I like I said in the introduction myself, I'm persuaded, that the parliamentary system is going to help us better. But I wanted to ask you, so now in the attempt that people like you are making in the House of Representatives, will it be is it something that we can achieve in good time? Or what is the time the timeline that you have, for this before we get into I wanted to know.
Well, we're practicing, a democracy which has a constitution.
Right.
So everything we're doing has to be based on what is in the current constitution.
Right.
And in the current constitution, the only way we can go back to what we want to achieve is to amend the constitution. So based on that, we decided to bring 3 different amendments, whereby, why don't we amend the aspect of local governments, in the next 3 to 4 years, and start practicing the local government, full parliamentary system in the local government. After which we migrate to the states, and most likely the same time to the federal. What is it that we want to achieve in the local government? In our draft proposal, which is not cast in stone. That's why we have decided to target a parliamentary system, but a homegrown.
Right.
A homegrown, we're not copying anybody's parliamentary to come and paste and say, no, Nigeria must copy. No, let's sit down and believe and agree. This is the best way forward for us. So we said, start with local governments and 2027 elections. Why don't you do it? Local government election should be together with the general election, whereby all you do is elect the councillors because you have the wards.
Right.
And it's from the wards that they have the chairman.
Right.
So if you have the wards, electing their councillors, and the councillors, after elected, they elect the chairman amongst themselves.
Okay.
So if the chairman is not living up to expectation, they take him back to his councillor seat and they elect another person to lead them. That is what we're asking for. That is the proposal we have. But like I said,
there will be no election of local government chairman.
There shouldn't be election for local government chairman. Equally, there shouldn't be election for the governor. And at the same time, there shouldn't be an election for the president as well. By the general public, it should be your representatives that have been elected that is our own proposal, like I said.
Right.
It's not cast in stone.
Right.
But we're happy, with a good number of Nigerians, that are coming up to say, sincerely speaking, this is the way forward. Then now is how do we come to a round table? How do we sit together to agree that,
Yeah. So in the well-known parliamentary system format, so you will have, just like you said, elections of the representatives from their wards, local government, their constituencies, at the state and federal level. And then normally what happens in the normal, parliamentary system, particularly the British type, and also even the one that is practiced in India, is that the head of the party, so for instance, at the national level, the leader of the party, who will also stand election in his or her own constituency. Now, if he wins and he or she wins and his party wins the majority, he will then be the one to form the government and be the head of the government.
That's right.
Is that also what you are proposing?
Well, if you look, that's not what we are proposing. What we are proposing is amongst the parliament, you don't have to have the chairman or leader of the party automatic taking over. No.
Okay.
You elected amongst yourselves. Just like we do with the speaker, as enshrined in the constitution or in our own laws, our standing rules, is amongst yourselves. Who is the best to take us to where we want to be?
Okay.
Number one, just get elected into the parliament. Right. It's part of the things we're putting on the table. But like I'm saying, we are trying to start this generation. Let's talk what is Nigeria. What is best for Nigeria?
Right.
We have leaders that have seen the First Republic. And they're still alive,
right?
To guide us, where they believe is best for Nigeria, based on what they have seen. And that's what we are looking at. That is the debate we are putting. That look, we are saying get those that were part of the system and those of us in this our generation to sit together and agree how best. But for me or for my colleagues, what we are proposing is amongst the elected representatives, they have the prime minister and they have the ministers, who shouldn't have an extra salary. Maybe all they need 1 or 2 allowances based on but you are expected to work full time. That's why you are a representative of the people, not a part-time representative.
So now, and that is very interesting. And I note that you had said that it's homegrown.
That's right.
So that seems like one of the homegrown ideas.
That's right.
Now, but I wanted to ask you now. So, if you have that situation, so where everybody runs, and I'm talking out of the federal government, people run in their constituencies, they come to the House of Representatives, the Parliament, whatever name we choose to call it. Now, they will always run on a party, on a political platform. So, if you then have them pick among themselves, do you think that will help bring party supremacy? which is one of the things that we seem to have really lost recently in our democratic journey since 1999. If you have somebody else emerge in the parliament as the prime minister who is not the leader of the party, do you think that that will not continue a system where there's contention? Oh, who is the leader of the party? We have a party chairman, but the president is the leader of the party, or, and all of that. Because normally, you have said homegrown, but we're just debating it. Normally, it is the leader of the party, in Britain or India, that becomes the prime minister. I wanted you to address that.
That's why I'm saying we don't have to copy and paste somewhere. We can look at it and develop what works for us. Okay. If you look at it, I'm very particular with that word, what works for us.
Yeah.
And we need to sit down. We are the ones to determine what works for us, not somebody that is somewhere in another country to say this is what is best for Nigeria. No, we know our challenges in Nigeria. We know our strength. So why don't we take advantage of these things and sit down and say, look, gentlemen, this is what it is. What you have discussed about party supremacy, is all about nomenclature. This can be defined in our guidance, which is whichever constitution we end up having. So let's have our own guide and have our own nomenclature. You have leaders of the party, for example. What happens at the end of the day? Party leaders presidents change chairman of the party overnight. The moment the president doesn't like you as a chairman of the party,
right?
In the First Republic, we know how powerful chairman of parties were.
Yeah.
But here, where are we? Overnight, if the president is not interested in you, they will just create something, and the next thing, your history.
So how do we avoid that in the parliamentary system?
That's why I'm saying we need to sit together. We have already seen the challenges we've got, the faces we have faced. We have faced. The issue of where the leadership of the National Assembly is being changed from the villa in those days. The president is not interested. You have done something wrong. You are changed over. These are the things that we need to stop. So we should learn from our experiences. Look back and see, where are we coming from? Right. What are the challenges that are making us not to progress? Yes, there's people keep saying the Nigerian factor. I believe we have very committed, hardworking, intelligent Nigerians around the system.
Absolutely.
But a good number of them are even complaining the system is not working. And I'll cite 2 examples that happened in the last week. One of them was before you, which is the Minister of Aviation. He was saying that the system is too corrupt. This is the Minister of Aviation. He said it, that the regulators are not doing their work. In fact, if I might quote him, he's like, aviation might be one of the most corrupt. Government parastatals. I saw him say that.
Right.
I saw the EFCC chairman said, look, no matter how good you are, you get into the system, you get contaminated. So we believe there is something fundamentally wrong. It's like a house that's on a shaky foundation. What happens? It's a matter of time before it collapses. We hope it doesn't happen. Let's realize that there are cracks here, things are not working. And what is the way forward?
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that a good number of Nigerians we're talking to strongly believe that this is the way forward. But we shouldn't come and determine for over 200 million Nigerians. Let's find an avenue where a good number of us can come together and believe that, gentlemen, we are not getting it right on this. For example now, just look at ministers. You elect a president, but at the end of the day, how many ministers, they don't even know what are the challenges of their people. They don't know what the people want. And at the end of the day, there's always that friction between them and the National Assembly, because the National Assembly, the demands of your people.
Yeah, they come from the...
Exactly. So there's always that thing. So what about if you're elected to the parliament? You know what the people need. You know how best to tackle these challenges. And the shortest possible time, you will see that things are getting better. And notwithstanding, those that are in power, they dare not tell you that things are happening when you know they're not happening. You come to the floor, for example, let's talk about insecurity, which is the biggest challenge we have in Nigeria today.
Yes.
You are the Minister, for example, of Defense. 6 months before now, you sat down in a budget and say you need X amount, XYZ. You're going to make life better. But every day there's a motion, insecurity here. You run out of lies, and what happens? We get you outside that ministry. You have to leave, because you cannot come and be telling us one thing for 6 months and we continue to remain on that.
True.
So we get people that can do it. If you can't, you get back and you come back to your representative seat. We get those that have what it takes. So those are the things that we need to be deliberate. We need to sit down and make plans that we know will help Nigeria and get us out of where we are today, because we're in a quagmire.
Clearly.
We are, indeed.
Clearly. I mean, and like I said, one of the reasons that I believe that the parliamentary system will work for us, based on our experience, especially since 1999, is that the presidential system, and I've said this, and I'd like to say it again, and hear your comment. The presidential system affords us a situation where whoever is sitting down in the villa as the president has the opportunity to just hide himself away from taking public responsibility. Now, a parliamentary system where the prime minister sits in the parliament, just like you described, he sits in the parliament, even the other ministers too, they are members of the parliament, and they must take questions from their colleagues, from the public. It is seen every day. That is going to increase the level of transparency on the one hand. Everybody knows what is going on. You can't really hide. And then it will also increase the accountability, of people who have a public responsibility and people who are being entrusted with power. So those are the two things. But clearly, even in terms of the tension that you described between ministers and the legislators, it will be absent under the system.
Well, in addition to what you have said, as in the last couple of weeks, for example, the president has been out of the country on official engagement.
Yeah.
While he was away, we had challenges of fuel scarcity for a couple of days.
Yeah.
We know how the average Nigerians got to suffer, and they're still suffering. Because in some places, as at this morning, somewhere in the northern, in my state, for example, in my local government,
Tambuwal,
as at today, they were selling petrol at over 1,500 in filling stations. As at today, still.
Are you kidding?
Yes. I spoke with a constituent this morning just to be sure what is going on. He said it's 1,500. That's what he's buying a liter. Not about that. We're talking about the power sector. You can see what has happened in the last couple of weeks. The same time you can see with the taxation. When you are in the people parliament, that communication should take place. The president, the leader should be hands-on. We want a leader where every single day you are on top of situation. You are able to relate to the citizens. Not from third party. The leader should be able to communicate. The leader should say this is what is going on. The leader this is what is happening. So we in the parliament, you can hold them responsible when the right thing is not being done. Afterwards, it's not somebody talking on his behalf. He is the one talking based on the mandate that is given to him.
Right.
So these are the things we believe can make Nigeria better. For example, I keep making this example. Imagine a 2023 parliament with a Tinubu, with Peter Obi and Atiku.
All of them in the house.
That is it. So that is it. We want the best to be in one place, whether you are the one who is leading or not, but be elected and be where you are going to make sure that lives of the ordinary, of the Nigerian people is changed. We need to be deliberate on that.
Yeah, excellent point. Excellent point. Imagine the House of Representatives, the Parliament, where Mr. Tinubu is the Prime Minister, and Mr. Atiku is the opposition leader, and then Mr. Peter Obi is also excellent. I mean, it will be very, very exciting, and hopefully he can transform the country. This is my view. But let's talk about, how this is going to happen. What is the level of support that you have in the House of Representatives? Can you just give us an idea? How popular is this idea?
Well, in the House, to be honest, it is quite popular. But it's not just for us in the House. If you look, we had the first reading on the 14th of April.
Okay.
And deliberately.
Have you had the second reading?
Not yet. We decided to be very strategic in our approach. Strategic in the sense that, my generation, our generation of they are not very familiar with the parliamentary system.
Yeah.
And we believe that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Right.
It's not something that should happen overnight. We need to enlighten, we need to educate the citizens. People need to be on board of what to expect from it. And we said, let's find where we are coming from. We are privy to have some of the leaders, some of the founding leaders that were in the First Republic, that played a key role when this happened. And we've been able to visit a good number of them.
Like who and who?
Well, we visited Alhaji Aminu Dantata, who was a member of the party. Yeah, in Kano. We visited Chief BC Akande. He was part of those that played one role or the other in the First Republic. We visited Professor Ango Abdullahi.
Okay,
he was part of those, exactly. Chief Oshoba, we had time with him. We met Chief Edwin Clark. So a good number of them that were part of it.
And have they all given their support?
They all believe that this is the way forward for Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
All of them. They're there in the news. We had the meeting, they were recorded. You find out, they're out in the news.
Interesting.
All they said. So they believe in this. But coming down to our own generation, they start disconnect. So we believe we need to get them on board And if you look maybe in the papers today,
Yes.
We decided to find a way to communicate to our students across tertiary institutions across the globe.
Okay.
Why do we need that? Because they're the future of the country.
Right.
So they need to be part of this debate.
Yes.
We need to own this debate, and we need to believe that this is what is best for us. You cannot be doing something of that magnitude without carrying the citizens along. So that is why we decided to put that as a where they can tell us the benefits, because some of them have shown interest in what we're doing. When you put it on the social media out there, they tell you this is it. That look, this is the way forward, this is the way forward. So based on that, what we intend to achieve starting from today, from this essay that we've put out, is to make sure that a very good number of Nigerians are talking about it in the tertiary institutions. Then from there, we take it to the other aspects of, our people, whether the market woman, the market man, the religious leaders, traditional leaders. By the way, we've started seeing the religious leaders and traditional. We have met the Oni of Ife, on behalf of the traditional rulers, he spoke. He's in touch with them. I think he's trying to mobilize as many as he
Is he also in support?
He is very much in support. He is in for it, and he said if there's anything that is required to sensitize the average Nigerian, he's out there to assist.
What about the Sultan of Sokoto?
We will be seeing him.
Okay.
But he's on board, and he believes that this is the way forward.
Your B of Onitsha, all the other
we have seen them some privately, but in the open is just the Oni of Ife that we've met.
Okay.
But 100% in support of what we're doing. Fantastic. And like I said, even the leaders, those that participated, in the Constituent Assembly in 1978, 79, a very good number of them believe that, the military made a fundamental mistake, which is to give them only two options. They said, look, we either have the French system of government or the American system. And majority of them believe that that is not the way forward for Nigeria. But, the young military guys in those days, in the 80s and the 70s, the very young gentlemen that thought that after the Civil War, let's have a forceful leader that can unite us. We were just coming out of the Civil War then. Right. And majority of Nigerians, as at then, the circumstances, we just want to have peace. We didn't look at the long-term implication of what we are going to practice. And that is why we are where we are.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you so much, Honorable Representative Abdul Samad Dasuki, representing Kebe and Tambuwa Federal Constituency from Sokoto State, a member of the People's Democratic Party. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources, and thank you for your contributions. And I am really in support of this, and we will push it because it will make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Laulu.
Yeah, and thank you so much, viewers, for watching another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, #Nigeria will prevail. We believe it. That is why we are here. And I'll see you next week by the grace of God. My name is Laulu Akonde.